honestly, the U.S. isn't protecting NATO. The U.S. is occupying Europe. It occupied Europe after 1945, and it has continued to occupy Europe to this day. Germany's semi-sovereign. Most of Europe is semi-sovereign. They also don't tell the truth because they have U.S. military bases. They have CIA operations on their soil. So all of Trump's threats, we'll leave NATO, NATO's coward. Good. Leave. Close it down. NATO was designed to prevent an invasion by the Soviet Union of Western Europe. Well, the Soviet Union doesn't exist anymore, and Russia's not about to invade Western Europe. It's the last thing Russia wants to do. So I think Trump would.
European leaders are saying.
Yeah, but European leaders have been groomed by the United States for decades to have a completely crazy Russophobia. Crazy. Russia's fighting 4 years to take a small slice of eastern Ukraine. It's going to show up in Berlin. It's going to show up in Paris. Are you kidding? Come on, somebody needs some sense in this. And the Europeans they're so badly led. The public despises their leaders, by the way. Not one of them has an approval rating of, well, I shouldn't say maybe one or two, but Merz, his approval rating is below 20%. Macron's approval rating is about 10%. They don't like these people. And all their Russophobia is completely irrational. So the one thing Trump really could do would be to leave NATO. It's enough. NATO should have been ended in 1990 when Gorbachev ended the Warsaw Pact. It doesn't serve any purpose now other than American power. And it does serve American power. That's why Trump's boasts and threats probably don't mean anything. He's trying to scare the shit out of the Europeans. And he probably succeeds. But he's not protecting them. He's protecting them the same way that the United States is protecting Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the Emirates. And how is that? Well, it's gotten all four of these countries bombed, and they're going to get bombed to smithereens if this war continues a little while longer. That's what's called America. Iran was rather desperately trying to negotiate an agreement with the United States for 15 years in which Iran would subject itself to intense international scrutiny to not build a nuclear weapon in return for lifting crushing economic sanctions, which have had a devastating effect on living standards and survival rates of the Iranian people. So they've been trying that for 15 years. I know it personally because Iranian diplomats would contact me. Do you have any idea who in the White House we could talk to? Is there any back channel, anything we can do? This was not a game from their side. They were a little bit innocent in this, thinking that the U.S. was really going to negotiate with them. I don't think the U.S. ever had an intention to negotiate with them. The U.S. wanted surrender. It wanted to reverse the 1979 revolution. It wanted to put Iran back under U.S. control. Israel wants to assert its hegemony militarily across the Middle East and West Asia and the Horn of Africa. And so they did not want a nuclear weapon. And they've said so for 15 years. And every time they tried to show it, they got bombed or assassinated for their effort. So how much bad faith does the U.S. have to show before people say, that's bad faith? But this was absolutely reckless, going back at least to the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. The U.S. wants to control the world. It doesn't want to negotiate with the world. It wants to boss the world around. It wants to tell India, you can buy Russian oil, or you can't buy Russian oil, or you can do this, or you can't do that. That's the American way. And that's the American way everywhere. Demands, not negotiations, demands. The only point of optimism that I would say is that if the big players in the world would directly take this on, it would end, because there's so much bluff in it. There's so much bravado. There's so much delusion. It's possible to talk the United States down, but not when everyone normalizes it and just thinks that a president can talk in these vulgarities or bomb in these vulgarities and get away with it. That's the difference. I'm not pessimistic. I'm just a little bit frustrated that we don't have the grown-ups responding.
How would you rate this moment in geopolitics? Is this one of the most dangerous geopolitical moments that you've encountered in years?
Yeah, I'd say the most dangerous moment since 1945 was the Cuban Missile Crisis, because we were within minutes or seconds of blowing up the world. Here, I would say this is number two, because we're within days or weeks of blowing up the world's energy supply.
Okay, so somebody, you're saying, needs to get up, tell Donald Trump to stop it.
Yeah, and I would say do it as a group. Prime Minister Modi doesn't have to do it by himself. He can do it with President Xi and President Putin and President Lula and President Ramaphosa and President El-Sisi. The BRICS can do it. And the BRICS should do it. And the BRICS shouldn't leave it to Pakistan, frankly. That's not the right way to do this.
They are happy to throw their lot with anybody right now and do anything for money, really, because their economy is in a shambles.
Well, that's one of the ways that the U.S. Keeps control. Look at Turkey. I'm sure that Turkey is not happy about this, but the U.S. has its thumb on, or its, I'd say its grip on the jugular of Turkey through the finances. If a country is financially vulnerable, well, the U.S. keeps the pressure on. It says you behave or we will destabilize your economy. We even had our Treasury Secretary, Bessent, who was a kind of a thug, describe when he was in Davos how the U.S. applied maximum pressure on Iran this past year to break the banking system and to break the currency. That's their game. So that is one of the ways that they dictate to other countries. Absolutely illegal, but